My family's been farming and milking cows on this property every day since January 17th, 1893. I remember being, probably in junior high, into high school, and riding around with friends and their parents in their cars and passing by a dairy, and they'd smell the dairy and they'd smell the cow manure, and somebody would invariably say, "It smells like money." And I remember that being kind of interesting to me because it smelled like work to me, right? Like as a 13-year-old, it didn't seem like there was money in this, but certainly during the 80s, there was a time in Central California when dairy was very good.
I was raised on a dairy. My dad was immigrated to this country in 1950. I loved being raised on a dairy. I always dreamt about having my own someday.
Yeah, we've seen a decline over the last decade or two, but it's not one single thing that's caused this decline. Part of it's environmental, some of it's economical, some of it is what does the future generations of the dairymen want to do? Some of them just don't want to do it. Some of them want to do it. And where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, the crisis is affecting both large and small dairy farms. The margin is so tight now, they have to be really, really careful with their business opportunities and the chances that they take.
The land around our dairy has quite a bit of value, and because it's land that can be used for other purposes. We can plant walnuts here, or pistachios, or almonds, or grow tomatoes. We can do lots of other things with our land besides grow feed for cows.
I had my 4 kids and we had a meeting, and I asked them, are you sure that this is what you want to do?
We're going out and doing the studies to show that the crops that we're planting, they're pulling CO2 out of the air at rates that nobody even realizes. These cows, they're not polluters. They're actually turning what we've got in the hills into more greenery. We're preventing forest fires with cows. Can you believe it?
We've lowered our environmental footprint by about 65%. Our water consumption is down by 75% in 15 years. And our methane, we've now reduced by 50% voluntarily in just the last 4 years.
We had to make a decision. Do we expand and grow our dairy from 1,000 milk cows to 2,000 or 3,000 milk cows? Or do we change our business model and leverage the greatest asset that we have, which is the value of our dirt? The dirt became more valuable than the cows.
82-22 is what we're going to be working on here, guys. He's given 108 pounds of milk.
Buyer number 32.
I don't think we can sit in the corner and be mad at the state. I believe that we need to engage with Sacramento.
As much as I can do to hold on to this, I'm going to.
Production funding for American Grown, My Job Depends on Ag, provided by James G. Parker Insurance Associates, helping to protect and grow Valley agribusiness in California for over 40 years. By the Gar and Esther Titillion Charitable Foundation, a legacy of giving to support the people that make agriculture grow. Farms feed families, public television feeds minds. By Brant, Professional Agriculture, supporting the heroes that work hard to feed a hungry world every day. By Unwired Broadband, today's internet for rural Central California, keeping Valley agriculture connected since 2003. By Harris Farms, a tradition of working forward to protect the future of water, ranches, and farms in California and beyond. And by Valley Air Conditioning and Repair, family-owned for a half-century, dedicated to supporting Valley agriculture and the families that grow our nation's food.
My name is Dino Giacomazzi, and I'm the 4th generation to manage the Giacomazzi Dairy in Hanford, California. My family's been farming and milking cows on this property every day since January 17th, 1893. My great-grandfather, Luigi, purchased this property here in Hanford in 1893 from the Southern Pacific Railroad Company, who at the time had been laying tracks through the town of Hanford, claiming the property around the railroad tracks and selling it off to pay for the construction of the railroad. So my family is the original landowners here. Before us, this was wild, open territory. At that time in the 1890s, most of the farmers and the dairy people in this area were Swiss-Italian immigrants. My great-grandfather had immigrated from southern Switzerland in the Ticino region, and originally ended up in the Salinas Valley, and then moved to Fresno, and then finally settled here on this property in 1893. And he started out with 10 cows. And what he would do is he would make his milk into cheese and butter, and he would sell it to the Chinese railroad workers in the town of Hanford. And Hanford is kind of an interesting place because, you know, it was founded by Chinese and the Swiss. And Hanford still has, you know, a historic Chinatown area, and we still have Chinese families in Hanford that have been here for 120 years. Growing up, you know, every day before school, I had to come and feed calves, and on the weekends, drive tractor, raking hay, and things like that. And I remember doing that going back to since I was 5 years old, as far as I remember. And you know, we lived in a house that was a little bit away from the dairy, and we didn't have swing sets and things like that. Like there was farm equipment parked in front of our house, and that was basically my swing set. You know, things I got to play on was tractors and farm implements. Certainly during the 80s, you know, there was a time in Central California when dairy was very good. And for many, you know, since then, it's kind of been volatile, right? It's been good some years and not so good in other years. But recently, over the last 5 years, it's been pretty tough to be in dairy. Things made a shift in the end of 2014, and the economics of dairying had kind of flipped.
My name is Anya RAUDABAUGH. I'm the CEO of Western United Dairies. We represent approximately 600 dairy farmers throughout the state of California, and all kinds of production practices, organic, conventional, grass-fed. We are not discriminatory. We just want to see the success of the family dairy. It's a very fair thing to say that we have had to make some hard decisions in the industry. Families are making hard decisions every single day. They wake up to a slew of tough choices, but how they face that is really depending on their survival and looking for the future. There are lots of opportunities, I think, for different farming commodities, but our board is really trying to find a good fit for the future of the dairy industry, and something that we have to deal with is how we're challenged every single day in this state and in the United States. The dairy industry is across the board having a hard time adjusting to consumer trends and realities, but they are doing that, and that's something that we're optimistic that our farmers can meet those challenges.
This specific business has been running since '94. I've basically grown up here. My grandfather and my father started this place together, but our family's been dairying for well over 100 years. Currently, my brother and I and my father are partners in the facility, and we're trying to carry on the legacy that our predecessors gave to us. Dairy's never been an easy business to be in, but the landscape keeps changing. The world keeps spinning. It's never stopped. Things keep changing around us. So it'd be foolish for us to think that the business wouldn't change either. Yeah, we've seen changes. I'm not saying it's harder. It's different, but we've got to adapt and change and continue to do what we do. It's just a different environment.
There's a decline in fluid milk consumption, and that's been happening steadily for the last 20, 30 years. Consumers are looking for more butter, powder. They want things that are a little bit more focused on cheese. Cheese is a huge popular item as more restaurants and more consumer trends trend more towards cheese consumption. We're adjusting that on the dairy production side. And so it's exciting to see some of the new innovations that farmers and their processes are making in order to match those consumer trends. So a trend towards yogurt consumption, a trend towards innovation with fluid milk. So people are looking at things that are a little bit more value added, things that have higher protein, less carbohydrates, less sugar. Those are all things that do eventually filter all the way down to the farm. And it's a source of optimism in our industry because there's a huge demand. We cannot meet the global demand for butter right now, and that's something that our farmers have to look forward to.
All our milk goes to Land O'Lakes. We are a shipper of Land O'Lakes, and they contract where our milk goes to. As far as the consumer goes, we've seen upticks in dairy products. Maybe not milk, but dairy products. People are eating more cheese. People are eating more butter, more ice cream. People love dairy. So yeah, dairy fluid milk may be going down a little bit, but there's more competition in the market. But people still love their dairy.
You know, let's just say through the evolutionary process of the dairy industry in California. You know, California is a big state, and early on, almost all of the milk that was produced in California was consumed in California. And then as the dairy industry grew, as there became more and more dairies and more milk, we started processing milk and dairy products into manufactured products like cheese and butter, for example, which are things that could be shipped further. So we started supplying dairy products to the rest of the country from California. I mean, currently, I think 23 to 25% of all the milk in the entire United States is produced in California. And the vast majority of California milk is here in the San Joaquin Valley, you know, within 150 miles from where we are right now, either direction. So as the industry continued to grow, dairy went from sort of a local product to a regional product to a national thing, and now we are in a global market where, you know, 30-some% of the milk that is produced in California is exported. And Mexico is a big exporting partner, but also China and many other countries. And so as we have gone to a wider and wider market, the market has become increasingly more complicated for us, because now our competition for our milk is regions around the world that can do it at a much lower cost than we can.
This makes my 35th year that I've been in the dairy business on my own. I'm a second-generation dairyman, and I feel like the state of the dairy business in California with this next generation is in good hands. They think a little differently than us older guys, and I see that they're interested in new opportunities that come about, whether it's the digester or a methane digester, or possibly composting, or raising some of these beef animals off of our dairy herd. And it makes me excited when I talk to this next generation.
My kids come out and help feed. Oh, babies. Huh.
He popped right up just like a dog, huh?
Oh, he does. But don't make that comparison. Huh. This is a real new work in progress.
Right, a new venture.
Yeah. Oh, good guy. You're just going, huh? Come on, buddy. He's the first one.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's the first one.
This calf, a female calf, will be, you'll raise this calf for about 14 months, 15 months, and then you will breed this calf. I guess most of us breed them AI, artificial insemination, and she will get pregnant. She will give birth 9 months later, so roughly at 2 years of age, she'll have her first calf. And she will milk generally about a year, 12, 13 months. About 90 days in, 100 days in, she'll get pregnant, and she'll milk until she's about 7 months in calf, so 7 months pregnant. And she will dry her off. That means that for 2 months, she'll not give any milk. We call that being dried off or going to the dry pen, where she'll just relax and eat and get ready to give birth. And when she does, then the whole cycle will start again.
When I came fully back to the dairy after I went to school, I came back in 2009 when the prices were to nothing. We couldn't make things meet. That's what I knew. All I knew is how to fight. All I knew is how to sharpen my pencil and adapt. So that's kind of how I've shaped how we do things here, how I look at things here, is I've never seen good prices in my generation. So I have to adapt to whatever variable comes our way.
In 2013, we made a decision that we were not going to expand the dairy, and instead we were going to diversify and plant almonds as an alternative to cows. And at the time, we decided when those trees are mature and they're making money and generating income, if the dairy market wasn't profitable, that we would sell the cows and continue growing in almond tree production. And so this year, in 2019, our family made that decision. Our family business is basically myself and my mother. And in December of last year, it also included my grandmother, who died in December at 105 years old. And my mother did not want to sell the cows as long as my grandmother was alive. And so we stayed in the business, and then once my grandmother had passed, we chose that it was time to follow the plan and transition. Our friends, relatives, and neighbors in the dairy industry, we're grateful for the support and generosity that you have shown us for many decades. Just because we are not milking cows doesn't mean we will stop being part of this community that we've been in for 4 generations. You will still see us at the fair, at dinners, at the weddings and funerals. We are still part of this community that is based on respect and friendship, not on cows.
19 and a half, I'll take 19 and a half. 124 pounds a day, I'll take 1950, on to 1950. I'm calling Richard at 1900, I'm asking 1950, and I have now $2,000. I should have started here.
Well, dairy farming in California is the most highly regulated commodity that exists in this planet. We're regulated for our groundwater, we're regulated for our water quality, also for our air quality, and we're now regulated for methane. And these are challenges that our farmers face as we develop our relationship with the state, as we work to develop better political relationships in Sacramento. We want to be better partners in that regard. Because ultimately, if we're able to reduce the effects that we have on water quality, air quality, and methane, we're actually getting a production advantage on the back end.
I think one of the biggest myths there are about dairies is water quality. I think the average person doesn't understand that We utilize water 3 or 4 times. We recycle that water for different uses. And from cooling our milk to washing our cows to washing the lanes to feeding our crops the nutrients they need. I think that's the biggest myth that's out there about dairies.
It's not that we've done a whole bunch more to be this clean enterprise. We've always been doing this stuff. This isn't new. But now the consumer wants to know what we're doing. So now it's new to everybody else. I mean, the water that we're using here, the manure that we produce here, where do you think your organic fertilizer comes from at the store? It's here. So it's not that we're doing something new. We're just sharing it a little better.
About 50 to 55% of the ground beef production in the United States comes from dairy cows. Whether it's cows that are older and have been beefed, or whether it's calves, drop calves that are bull calves that are going into a more specialized commodity like Wagyu beef or Angus, those are all coming from the dairy. And so the industry really provides a source of sustainable protein, not just in the dairy products that we make, but in the beef industry, which is why we're such good partners with the California Cattlemen's Association. We're really trying to make sure that that is just one more piece of the edge puzzle that our farmers have the opportunity to take. Because if you can crossbreed your cows with a higher value product on the end, instead of just beefing that calf, you're actually getting a lot more value for the money that you're putting into that calf.
There's a lot of things I love about what I do. I love a challenge. I love being outside. I love working with my hands. And I love that I get to do it with my family. I bring my kids out here. They get to horse around, play around, but they get to work. They get to appreciate where their food comes from. They get to see the circle of life. They get to understand things that people take for granted. They appreciate where things come from.
I don't think we can sit in the corner and be mad at the state. I believe that we need to engage with Sacramento and find ways that we can partner up, or in some other ways work with the legislators up there, get them to understand our story and our business practices, and see if there's some common ground there to help the environment, to educate people in the cities and those that don't understand dairy.
There are many in the ag industry that say if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And that is very, very appropriate. We may not have any dairy farms in Santa Barbara County, but they darn well use about 40% of the school lunch program that consumes dairy products. Teaching the consumer is a very derogatory term. It's also something that hasn't won any friends. And so we really have to work with them and understand what they want from us. And they want transparency, they want to know where their food comes from, and you'll find that most farmers are really happy to say, come on in, this is where your food comes from and we're proud of it.
We've been thinking about and talking about this sale for a long time, and you never really know how you're going to feel when it comes and you're in the middle of selling all your animals. And I was doing pretty good through most of it, happy with how the sale has gone. I mean, happy with the prices we were getting, and and definitely grateful for so much show of support from the community and the people that showed up. But then I was walking over here, I was looking at the cows that are right behind me, and the cows were looking at me, and I kind of feel like the cows are a little bit, maybe the cows are disappointed. It's mixed because it's difficult going through a transformation, but generally on the other side of a transformation comes something better, and we're really looking forward to what's coming next. We didn't know that we weren't very good at doing that, and that they thought that they Hey, shut up over there!
Hey, we're doing something here. Okay, pick it up.
Production funding for American Grown, My Job Depends on Ag. Provided by James G. Parker Insurance Associates. Helping to protect and grow Valley agribusiness in California for over 40 years. By the Gar and Esther Titilian Charitable Foundation, a legacy of giving to support the people that make agriculture grow. Farms feed families, public television feeds minds. By Brent, Professional Agriculture, supporting the heroes that work hard to feed a hungry world every day. By Unwired Broadband, today's internet for rural Central California, keeping Valley agriculture connected since 2003. By Harris Farms, a tradition of working forward to protect the future of water, ranches, and farms in California and beyond. And by Valley Air Conditioning and Repair, family-owned for a half-century, dedicated to supporting Valley agriculture and the families that grow our nation's food.